Hello, 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 Chicago Bears fans. Depending on where you stand, it's a glorious day or not a glorious day. But anyway, welcome to the Bears Den podcast. I am Andy, and we have a great show lined up for you guys today. We're going to talk about the Ben Johnson hiring. This franchise finally swung big and spent some money. If you are watching, please show us some love. Send us comments, send us feedback. We love comments. We love feedback. We love when the audience interacts with us. Please. So let me bring out the stars of the show. We're joined by the star, Todd. We got a special guest on, Sarah, and she is making history. She's our first female guest on this show. And guys, this is our 40th show. So this is a big deal. We've been doing this 40 times. And of course, we got the star of the show, the bad guy, Chicago Clarence. So how's everyone feeling overall? Good, bad, partial. I think everybody's frozen from the weather. It's actually snowing in Charlotte, if you can believe that. So, Sarah, I'm going to kick it off with you. We always like to ask our first-time guest, what made you a Chicago Bears fan?
Yeah, so pretty much, for as long as I can remember, every Sunday I would be at my grandparents' house, and we had the Bears game on, so I'd be watching it with my cousins, with my uncles. I grew up with all boy cousins, so they were all watching it every week with my grandparents. And I just started to get really involved in it and really just started to fall in love with it. And I've been a Bears fan ever since. So.
Well, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us. So let me start with you. I know you were all in on Ben Johnson. Why were you all in on this guy?
Yeah, obviously, he in the past 3 years calling offense, he, finished in the top 10 in yards. But he's just also such an offensive, like a creative offensive mind, that we really haven't had a coach, that really has that creativity for offense. And watching our offense this season, they were just struggling, and
yes,
they really needed to get it together. They really needed, someone to come in there and figure out, what's going on and what can we do better. And so I wanted an offensive guy no matter what, for our next head coach. But I really wanted also someone that I know, feel strongly that can develop Caleb Williams. He has so much potential to be unlocked. And I think that now that we have Ben Johnson, like, he has the ability to really unlock Caleb, to help him with his timing issues, and to really get our offense, off the ground.
So, Todd, Ben Johnson, the McCaskies swung big.
They did.
Shelled out a lot of money when you start doing the math. I'll get into that to a minute, but what's your initial reaction to Ben Johnson becoming the coach of the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. It's we tend to, if the obvious path is right, we'll go left. We swerve, yes. we save money. The only hesitancy, is first time head coach.
Yes,
Campbell's been a good mentor for him for 2 years. We'll see what happens. There's been a lot of offensive geniuses in the past, not necessarily for us, but around the league that turned out to, be a little underwhelming. But I'm going to be positive about it. That's it. He was the hot commodity that everybody wanted. If it, even last year everybody wanted. So I think the obvious thing we all thought, was the Harbaugh situation last year. But since that, Caleb was the obvious choice, even though, Jaden Daniels has been unbelievable and all this and that. But and Rome falling to 9 was the obvious choice at the time. I don't know if you redo that again, but we've made what everybody felt was the correct choice at the time, and that's what this feels like too. So here's hoping that he's the wonder kid everybody thinks he is.
I save the best for last. Bad guy Chicago Clarence, take it away. What are your thoughts on Ben Johnson becoming our head coach?
I think that the only thing that the Bears saved them is the opportunity for them not to be scrutinized for making such a dumbass hire like they had done before in the past. Everybody wants to be on board and say, act like Ben Johnson is the second coming. I am not one of those people. I wanted a proven head coach. And you can say what you want to say about his offense. Granted, numbers don't lie. But at the end of the day, this team needed somebody who could command the room. And Ben Johnson has not proven that he can do that. If he can get this offense online, sure, you're going to prove yourself to be a competent play caller, because that is something that the Chicago Bears have never had, other than Mike Martins, which we tend to forget. Another offensive game. So there are other things that have to fall in line before we can put a modern offense on the field. And I'm not going to go long-winded, but I am underwhelmed. There are other things that has to happen for this to work.
Oh yeah, I mean we have a lot to do. Don't get me wrong. I mean he needs to fill out his coaching staff. He needs to fill out the offensive line. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is only the beginning. We have a ton of work to do to be competitive. So guys, let me rewind this a little bit. Saturday morning, ESPN broke a story. We poked around at Mike Tomlin. Steelers told us to pack sand. Sarah, what did you think when you saw that report on ESPN that we at least poked around at Mike Tomlin?
I mean, I think that it was a good move in that the Bears were willing to, look at all avenues, and that they weren't, past, wanting to trade for a head coach as well. And I also thought that they were potentially trying to leak that to show like, hey, we're actually willing to pay a coach, a good salary this season. And those are my initial thoughts.
Todd, when you saw that on the ticker tape on ESPN, what do you think when it came out that we poked around at Mike Tomlin?
Yeah, that was actually what I was looking for 2 weeks ago, to make that move. Although compensation wise, I wasn't going to be real aggressive with that because there was, he was supposedly on the hot seat and all this and that. But I think everyone's believing the rumors about it coming out of Hallis Hall as the leak. But yeah, I think it was to shore up the idea that, we're not going to offer him $6 million or $7 million. So we're going to come to the plate with money. So I think it was just a strategic move by the team.
I mean, I personally read it as when I saw that on the ticker tape, first thing I did was look up Mike Tomlin's salary. I saw, oh my God, it's $16 million. Oh my God, this means we are willing to spend big on a head coach for the first time ever in my life. But I also misread it and I thought, my God, we're going to go with McCarthy because we're going to go with experience. Mike Tomlin is experienced. We're going with Mike McCarthy. That's what I thought Saturday morning. The bad guy, what did you think when you saw that on the ticker tape on ESPN?
It's still one of Todd's lines. It's just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
The compensation of what we was going to have to give up for him was going to be astronomical. And we're not in a position to where we got to give up stuff. Now, if this is the Detroit Lions, a team that's right there, one of the better teams in the league with salary cap space and picks coming up, you can do something. But people keep talking about we got to rebuild our offensive line. I wish they'd stop lying. We don't have to rebuild this line. We got to build it. This line,
yeah, we do.
We got to rebuild it. We ain't got nothing but one viable piece on it. Then turn around and give away capital to get a coach that has lost 7 or 8 straight one game playoff? No. We need those picks. We need help on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Not to mention, we need an edge rusher. We may damn well need a safety because Briscoe's always in concussion protocol. We got needs. We ain't got time to be trying to give up 3 and 4 picks to get a head coach. No, that would not have been the move. And stop trying to put the narrative out there thinking that all Chicago Bear fans are idiots. We knew good and damn well this wasn't going to work. You don't have to sit there and try try to make it look like to us that you're trying because we're so used to you doing the wrong thing. So fix the team and stop playing games with us.
Right. I mean, look, the second round picks are 39 and 41. There's no way. I mean, I'm not giving up 41 for Tomlin. So you're talking about the third round pick at what, at 72 and maybe, but I think that if you're doing that and Johnson wasn't there, then you go with McCarthy, and I think you get McCarthy for half that money probably. I mean, I don't know what he's going to get, but it's not going to be $15-16 million. It's going to be maybe half. So
guys, Detroit lost Saturday night. We interviewed Eddie George basically to meet the Rooney Rule. I mean, that's basically what we did. So we became eligible to hire Ben Johnson Sunday morning, and we moved fast. Sarah, do you think Ben Johnson was always our guy? I mean, I do now. I think he was number one for us the entire time. I don't think we wanted anybody else ever.
Yeah, I do think he was. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but I think, back in, it was maybe middle of October, that, I think Albert Breer came out with a report saying that Ben Johnson wanted to come to the Bears last season, but there was not a head coach opening. Obviously since we retained Matt Eberflus. But I think that throughout this entire process, I just kept thinking back to that and thinking if he wanted to come to the Bears last season, but there wasn't any opening, what would have changed from then to now? And I really do think that, he wanted to come to the Bears. I think all of the Raiders stuff that came out was just smoke. I don't buy into it. Especially, I think, multiple sources now have come out and said that, the Bears were always an early favorite for Ben Johnson. So I do think that he always wanted to come here, and I think that they were targeting him as their number one guy as well.
Yeah, I truly believe Ben Johnson wants to be here. I do.
Well, but you can't have a bidding war if you don't have another team interested, right? So
I get that. I mean, we struck when iron was hot. I mean, we were the only team eligible to hire him Monday. Even Monday yet, we were the only team eligible. I mean, everybody laughed. I know everybody laughed at us and ridiculed us for having 20 candidates and 17 interviews. But Todd, we did one virtual interview with Ben Johnson. In hindsight, was that enough? When you would like to sit down with this guy, go to Chicago Steakhouse or something, have some Chicago pizza or something?
Yeah. I think
have a face-to-face.
They said they were blown away, right? I think that's what I heard. So, I don't know. I think that, I think they're doing the moves they think are right. So, and what all the other teams are wanting to do. So, we'll see.
Chicago, Chicago Clarence, would you have taken this guy out to dinner, done it face-to-face with him? Or was one virtue enough for you?
I think that we all can agree that this move was made with Caleb Williams in mind. And I have been on record saying that the quarterback position is the most important position on your football team.
Yeah.
Bar none. And you have to build your team around your quarterback. All your decisions has to be made on the offensive side of the ball with him in mind. And I am not faulting this team for that part of it. Because, as I said before, we are one of the few teams who refuse to put a modernized offense on the offensive side of the ball on the field. We absolutely suck at it, Right. But the problem is, I didn't want us to get so wrapped into fixing the offense that we forgot about the whole team.
No, yeah.
And that's my worry with this team. Is Ben Johnson the guy that's going to get in front of your people and hold them accountable for not doing their job? Now, if the reports are correct, and he brings Dennis Allen in here to fix the defensive side of the ball, now we're starting to cook with some gas.
Right.
He does not play nonsense. He does not play games. He will hold you accountable. He will hold people accountable for not finishing routes. He will hold people accountable for not making tackles. He will hold people accountable for missed defensive assignments. And that's what we need. People just flat out doing their job. That nonsense that Tyreek Stevenson did this year, Dennis Allen is not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
What I want to know is Ben Johnson going to be the one who not tolerate that? It's too many people on this football team
that likes to run their mouth, and then it does not fluctuate to the field out there.
Mhm.
And that's what we need. And that's the reason why I said that we needed somebody that could command the room, somebody that's used to doing the whole thing and not just one side of the ball. Because listen, once you become the head coach, it's an uptick in your responsibility. You're responsible for everything. You're responsible for every phase of the game. You're responsible for game management. You're responsible for travel. I didn't even know that. I thought they had somebody on staff that did it. It's the head coach.
That's crazy.
For travel. So you gotta have that guy has got to be able to do all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't waste any time on the Dennis Allen information. I mean, they were quick to, that kind of, he was head coach briefly and with the Raiders and forever been with Saints organization for a long time. So, that kind of offset some of that first time head coach thing. So that helped.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that one of the comments just brought this up as well, but I think, obviously it was a short video that was put out today, but I did think that he was very, comfortable walking in there and commanding the room. And I do hope, that translates when, he's obviously doing that with tough players that, that need discipline, that really were an undisciplined team this season. And even, reports came out saying that there had been discipline issues with Shane Waldron back in, summer camp. So obviously that is, what the team is lacking right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, Chicago Clearance, they're saying your mic is cutting in and out on the show. The audience is. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, they're saying your mic is cutting in and out. But McCaskey's, they've never spent like this, ever. So we have the reports on Ben Johnson is 5 years, between $60 and $65 million.
Yeah.
Now you add in, we are going to owe Eberflus $9 million, and we're going to owe Waldron $5 million. We're going to have upwards of $30 million tied up in head coaches this year. Sarah, are the winds of change finally coming to the Windy City? McCaskey's finally get it, and they're willing to spend big. $30 million wrapped up in all these coaches. And granted, Eberflus isn't Ben Johnson's fault and so on, but that's a big change for this ownership to invest this much in a head coach.
Yeah. And I think that it came out, I think maybe it was in December, that Brad Biggs, he came out and said, let me pull up the quote here that I wrote down. He said that he reported back in December that he had two sources that said Warren likely will have the green light to spend as necessary to make the right hires, and that's plural because a head coach is only as good as his assistants. So I think that they were, willing to spend as much as they needed to try to get the right guy in there.
Yeah.
So Todd, we talked about this in our little pregame. Aaron Wilson echoed what we already said. He thinks McCaskey's heard sell the team, and it hit him hard. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I could care less what they're paying those guys that they chose wrong on. It doesn't count towards the cap. It doesn't affect team or talent anywhere. It's less money to the Hallis family, and I'm not crying any tears for them. So, if it were $100 million, it wouldn't faze me. So, but you pay for your mistakes. I know I do.
Chicago Clarence, were you surprised to see the McCaskies go big, this big?
Are you guys able to hear me all right now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's better.
So my thinking is just what Todd just got through saying. All the the astronomical failures that you have had selecting head coaches, this is exactly what your asses get.
Mm-hmm.
Time and time again. And we sit here on this show and we talked about bringing Eberflus back. And the problem with that was the way that you went about selecting head coach. I mean, this just go on and on. You know, when you had Nagy in here, and the reasons why you had Nagy, the reason why you selected him was because he was supposed to be this guru on calling offenses. When at the time the guy had only called 3 games.
Right.
And you know, it wasn't like he was the de facto offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was not. The only game that he was really in charge of was the playoff game, and we all know how that went with the Tennessee Titans when they had a halftime lead. He quits running the ball, wanted to get cute with it, and he ended up losing the game. You know, the way they did when they selected Mark Trestman. Then they had Bruce Arians in there for damn near 2 days.
Yes.
You know, had the guy believing that he was going to get the job. He calls his wife, tells her to call 2 men in the truck. We're going to Chicago, only to find out that he didn't get the job. This is the way that we do business. And look at what they did when they fired Eberflus. Now, I wish that we could have fired Eberflus twice. But you don't bring this man in here and have him do a press conference when you meet behind the scenes of deciding on whether to fire him or not. That's not how you do business. So the fact that you paying millions of dollars to people who you have fired is what your asses get.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. Sarah, if Caleb Williams was not on this roster, do you think Ben Johnson would be the head coach today?
No.
I don't.
I
either.
even said the same thing yesterday. I mean, I was one of the few that wanted to keep Justin Fields. I'm glad that now he didn't.
You and Chicago Clarence are going to be friends from here on out. You two are going to be friends from here on out. But keep.
I knew it was something about you, Sarah. I knew it.
I did want to keep him. I have nothing but love for him, and I hope he has a successful career, you know, in Pittsburgh. But I mean, I'm glad we have Caleb Williams now. I mean, you know, of course, I'm going to back whoever the quarterback is of this team. I do think, though, that it would have been a different situation if, you know, we either had a, you know, obviously right now Fields is in the year where they're going to have to, you know, sign a new contract for him and pay a lot of money to keep him on the team. So I do think it would have been a different situation if we did not have Caleb Williams. I mean, even, you know, Ben Johnson turned down the opportunity last year to work with Jayden Daniels. You know, they knew that the Commanders were probably targeting Jayden Daniels. He didn't want to go there. So I do think that he's impressed with Caleb. He thinks he's talented and he sees his potential. I think that's a lot of the reason why he came here.
Todd, same question. If number 18 was not on this roster, would Ben Johnson be our coach?
No, not at all. Yeah, I don't know who would be it. We'd be probably in the
still looking,
fighting for Brian Flores or, you know, somewhere.
Mike McCarthy probably would be, honestly.
Maybe McCarthy, but I don't know. Yeah, I like Justin. I wish him well. I just, you know, there's a reason that he's, you know, I don't know. Hopefully he can get a deal behind somebody with a chance to play, but I don't know that he gets a starting job next year.
Chicago Clarence, same question. If Caleb Williams was not on this roster, you think Ben Johnson would have been the head coach? And just so you guys know, they reported on ESPN this morning that Mike McCarthy was the runner-up.
Yeah.
Cap and Jay Hood said that in their radio show this morning,
yeah,
that McCarthy was the runner-up. He was plan B. But go ahead, Chicago Clarence.
Well, I mean, I think that Caleb Williams was the attraction to this team. And it's not just that. We have a bona fide defense. We just need somebody to make. I mean, you saw the differences when we lost Eberflus versus Eric Washington starts making calls. The defense regressed tremendously. You know, so if you get a competent play caller, somebody who knows how to attack another team's weaknesses and another team's offense, like Dennis Allen seems to be able to do, particularly his ability to be creative with the secondary. And a strong part of our defense is our secondary.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see if that comes to fruition, what could happen. But I do think that Caleb Williams was the attraction, and why wouldn't he be?
Yeah.
He's on a rookie deal, y'all. We're going to be
Yeah.
$81 million under the salary cap. This team already has nice, shiny toys. We just need some competency at the head coach, and we need competency at calling offensive plays. And it's something that we all can agree was sorely lacking with this
Yes.
team.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this same Washington, hold on. This same Washington Commanders team
yes,
that's going to the NFC Championship game. We
Yes.
were dominating them in their building. You know what I mean? In their
And-
building.
If
And
that
we
was,
had-
If we had competency on the sideline with a headset on, you know what I mean? Who knows what would have happened with our season? We were 4-2 at the time of that football game.
I
So,
feel like
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I feel like Dennis Allen, and I think I say this every week, is probably going to defend every play. I think so. I don't think he'll take this play off to defend the last one because that's the important play. So, I don't know that I'm ever going to get over that Hail Mary thing. That's just the dumbest. But a quarterback with bruised ribs, and then you give him 20 yards so he has a chance to throw it in the end zone. I mean, come on. That's how did he last weeks after that? I mean, it was an embarrassing year. But
Well,
Yeah.
and just I want to comment on that because not only was it embarrassing that that was the choice he made, but then it was even worse when he doubled down on that decision in
Yes.
the press conference.
Yeah.
yes,
You
know,
preaching, Sarah. You are preaching.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, like
Yes.
if you're gonna just admit the mistake, dude, that's the problem with Matt Eberflus.
yes.
And that was the problem with the players. He never took accountability for any of his mistakes, and they
Yeah.
just lost respect for him. And I don't
Yeah.
blame them. I don't blame them because
I
I could not watch that press conference and stand by what he was saying. I mean, how do you say that those extra yards don't matter? They absolutely do. They absolutely do.
I've said many times I don't think Eberflus lost the season with the Hail Mary. I think he lost the season in the press conference
Yeah.
when he wouldn't take accountability.
Right.
I think that's where he lost the season. And then he doubled down the very next morning on Cap and Jay Hood
Yep.
on their radio show and to still defend, like he could have slept on and say, "Hey, I messed up.
Right.
It was my fault." I got grown ass men who want to be, but I truly believe he lost the season in the press conference. I don't.
He
think-
did it with the Green Bay game too.
Yeah.
He did it on Thanksgiving as well. He got right up there and said some dumb stuff. And like I said, what really bothers me, like I said, and I'm really trying not to get on my soapbox, but what really bothers me is when head coaches try to act like we fans are idiots. Like all we do is just sit up there and bellyache and moan at the outcomes of games that we pay no attention to the reason why we lose games. And we're sitting there. I mean, when you got kids, for God's sake, sitting up there wondering why the hell you're not calling a timeout on Thanksgiving against the team that we had beaten, and then you get up there the next day and tell us you did the right thing, and if you had to do it all over again, you would have done the same thing. What?
Right.
Yes. So Tony brought up a point I was coming to in a few minutes. Guys, have you guys seen any reports that we've left anybody on our coaching staff go? I mean, Tony said the website now reflects Ben Johnson as the head coach. Thomas Brown is off the list, but every single coach is still on the list. Like, what are we waiting for? Like, there's no way, like Chicago Clarence said, we need to drive to Chicago and we need to help Chris Morgan pack. There's no way we retain. There's no way we retain him.
Right.
Isn't that
Well,
odd?
I don't know how. Sorry.
Go ahead, Sarah. No, go.
I don't know how we kept him from like the previous season to this season.
Yes.
Like he
Yes.
somehow snuck in. They kept him around, and then to have him still on this team, watching our offensive line be as bad as it is. It's one thing if it's talent. I mean, I'm sure part of it is that it's talent of the players, but I mean, I know that there are teams that do more with less. and it has
Yeah.
to just come down to coaching because that guy, he needs to go. He needs to be the first one out of Hallis
Yeah.
Hall.
But he's Ryan Poles' buddy. I mean, they're tight. That's the thing, and that's why he's still there. And look, and they're talking about, there's a shot that because Ben Johnson's going to call plays, that they're going to bring in Hank Fraley, who's the offensive line coach of the Lions, to be the OC. He's not going to call plays, but I would love to see that happen. But under that situation, he's the OC. There's still an offensive line coach. I don't know. I'm not sure. Morgan could still stay in there and kind of be underneath there and maybe learn from him. I don't know that guy goes. I'm not 100% sure, and I would have been surprised. But as long as Poles stays, there's a 50-50 chance Morgan stays, especially if they can bring in Fraley.
I can see our boy head is steaming. Why is Chris Morgan still employed, Chicago Clarence?
What I'm going to hope is, you know what? I'm going to back up. Because Magic Johnson, and, don't get me just speaking ill will about Magic Johnson because I'm a Laker fan, and Magic Johnson is one of my favorite players of all time, him and Kobe and Shaq, whatever. But they interviewed Magic Johnson after who did Washington play first? Who was the first game?
The Commanders
In the playoffs.
They
They beat. Oh my God! No, Detroit. Duh. They beat Detroit.
No, that wasn't that. That wasn't that first game.
They had to win.
Green Bay, wasn't it?
It was
No,
Green
it wasn't
Bay.
Green Bay.
No.
Minnesota, wasn't it?
Okay,
Yeah.
I believe whatever. After their first playoff game, they go in there and they interview Magic Johnson, and Magic Johnson said something very, very telling. He said, "We had a plan when we bought this team.
Tampa
We
Bay.
hired people. We let them do their job, and we got out of the way." And the reason why I bring that up is that's what Ryan Poles needs to do. You hire your head coach, let him hire his staff,
Right.
Yeah.
and you get out of the way, because this is some of the stuff that got us in the position that we're in now. You can't hire me and tell me who I got to keep on my staff when you're going to hold me accountable for wins and losses and the success of this football team. Yes, I know now that you're on your second head coach. You're probably not going to get a third because we thought about firing your dumbass this time around. So
Right.
don't handcuff me by keeping a guy who has been through 2 head coaches and still proving that he cannot do the job. Now, if Ben Johnson wants to bring old boy with him from Detroit, fine. That's his call. But Chris Morgan has got to go.
Yeah.
And he needs to be on the first thing smoking out of town.
Right.
I think under that scenario, he'd have the title, offensive line coach, but really Fraley's going to be in charge of the offensive line. So kind of an assistance kind of thing where I could say, but I don't want to see it either. I think you clean house there, but
It's
Oh, yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible Ben Johnson interviews and sits down with every single person, and maybe he keeps. I would have wanted him to keep Thomas Brown, if anybody. I feel like he didn't get a fair
Right.
shake. I would have been on board
Yeah.
with him keeping Thomas Brown, but Semo got to go. No
look,
way do I
what-
keep him. He's
what
got
the
to go.
organization did to Thomas Brown and even to Eric Washington.
not right.
I know he was the DC, but
Yeah.
Flus is calling the plays.
Yeah.
So to put those two guys in those spots, with a third of the season left or whatever it was, that wasn't right. It wasn't fair. Those guys weren't.
I'm more bothered about what the hand that Thomas Brown played than I am about Eric Washington. Eric Washington doesn't know how to call defenses. I am convinced of that. Thomas Brown was not given a fair shake. And if Ben Johnson chose to keep him on the staff in some capacity, that's fine. But I don't think he should be told he has to.
No.
Yeah. It should be up to him.
And you're paying him, you're paying him what you're paying him. You're going to let him make his choices.
I mean, I think Thomas Brown, as you saw in the comments, he's not on the website anymore. So I
Yeah.
guess that means he's gone. I guess, but everybody
I mean,
else is still
listen,
listed.
we all have jobs to do. And I mean,
Yes.
as I told you, my boss watches our show, and when he gets in my vehicle and we're going on our ride along and he's visiting properties with me, he doesn't tell me what properties we have to go see. He gets in there, he sits his ass down, he puts his seatbelt on, and we go to what properties I want to go to. Because I am ultimately responsible for the success of this route, for the success of my market. He doesn't tell me what, when, and how. He sits his ass down and he evaluates the job and he looks at the final numbers and the performance that I put forth. And that's exactly what should happen for our head coaches. You don't tell them what they got to do and who they got to keep. And a lot of it is based on the money that you're already paying because you did this 2-3 times ago and you're still paying guys that are working for other teams. I mean, for God's sake, we just finished paying Matt Nagy. For God's sake,
Yeah.
when are we going to learn? When are we going to learn?
Hopefully we get it. Hopefully what we just did shows we get it. Guys,
You know what, Andy?
go
We
ahead.
are the only team. We are the only team that had 3 general managers on payroll at the same damn time. The only team. The only team that does that kind of stuff. Because we fired Phil Emery when he had time left on his thing. We fired Ryan Poles when he had time left on his contract. And then we went out there and we fired Ryan Pace and then we hired Ryan Poles.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and they thought that we got lucky. They didn't have to change RP on a damn parking spot because they had the same initials.
Yeah.
Sarah, you have no idea how wound up he gets. You have no
Oh
idea.
no, I respect the passion and I understand the disappointment and the frustration that
Yes.
this team
Yes.
causes us every season.
Yes.
They never
I mean,
learn.
No, I don't know why I don't know why a sane person would root for this team. I don't. But hopefully the Windy City, the winds are blowing in. Kevin Warren, how big of a deal do you think he had in this? Anybody? I mean, how big of a deal do you think he played in? Do you think he went to McCaskey's and said, we're spending big and we're going to spend big and you're not going to stop us? I mean, how do you think he played any role? Big role, little role, no role?
I think he may have had some influence. I mean, this is the first time around that he's been in the hiring process. So, I think there might be a correlation between that and the fact that we, actually paid, 12, 15, I
Yeah.
don't know what the exact number is for a head coach this time around. So he might have had influence in it. I don't know how big of one, but
I think after those home games, with the chance, I think they've had to have meetings saying we have to make changes. I mean, like our history a couple of weeks ago, pulling up all the guys about hey, we had hired one coach with head coaching experience, and that's just strictly a financial thing, right? And so it's like you have to make a change. But we didn't do that. But we did get the guy that everybody wanted, and then immediately paid. Here's our DC, and he's got a lot of experience in this neighborhood. Just like they're trying to put out these fires before they start. I feel like that's what they're trying to do. So that's a big improvement.
Chicago Clarence, did you think Kevin Warren had a big hand in this?
Well, at the end of the day, somebody had to go into George's office and tell him to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And if Kevin Warren has that kind of cojones, then God bless you. But what I want to know is, you gave Ben Johnson a 5-year contract, am I right?
That's what the reports are, yes.
So
5
if the
years,
reports
60 to 65 million.
if the reports are true, then the right thing to do now is to extend Ryan Poles to a 5-year deal. Right?
right.
Right? Because if you thought about firing Ryan Poles after just one head coach and the failures of this team, because I don't know what everybody else feels, but this season was the worst season in Chicago Bears history based on the expectations and what was expected of this football team. They failed miserably. Considering that the guy that everybody was screaming for took a team with less talent in a harder conference to the playoffs. You know, regardless of their performance in the game, they went to the playoff, and we are starving for that. So now Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson are going to be married. And if Ben Johnson fails for whatever reason, and I don't give a damn what it is, Ryan Poles, your ass is fired.
Oh yeah.
Because you had two chances. You've had two chances, and you went about this team the wrong way because you didn't build it from the inside out like every other competent general manager would have done. So you went out there and you bought a shiny new toy, you bought a brand new Corvette, and you put no damn tires on it. It's useless.
Sarah,
So,
let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Ryan Poles? We've never heard them. What are your thoughts on Ryan Poles?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Ryan Poles made a lot of mistakes. I mean, not building the trenches, I mean, is just how can you defend that? I mean, you can get Caleb as many wide receivers and as many running backs as you want without an offensive line. It's just what's the point? I mean, he got sacked the most amount of times in NFL history in a single season. I think that, I even think that
Yes.
when we lost Andrew Billings, our
Yes.
defense took, a big step back after he got injured. So what does that say about our defensive line then?
Yes.
Too? I mean, if you lose one guy, you suddenly can't
Yeah.
control the run game. I mean, that's not really
Right.
great
No.
that you're putting that on one person's shoulders. So I am not entirely out on him. I know he's done a lot of good as well, but I do think that he should be on a tight rope, a short leash, I should say. And if he does not fix the O line and the D line this season, like this off season, then there's no hope. And I do think that he struggles with like talent acquisition. I think that he struggles with figuring out what type of talent, or being able to judge that, I guess. I think that that's something that he has a lot of issues with.
It's unfortunately his job.
Go ahead,
Right,
Todd.
right.
You were
So,
going to say
okay.
something?
So Clarence was talking about the right thing to do, and I agree, it's the right thing to do. You want everybody teamed up and married together, married up contract wise. In theory, that's true. The one
Yes.
thing that the Raiders had over us was they were like, you can pick your GM, and there was rumors that there was people he liked in Detroit's front office, and they wanted, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what was speculated out there. So Poles has 1 year, and it can be hey, let's do this year and see how it goes, and maybe everybody's good, and then they sign Poles to a 4-year deal to match it up. But if it doesn't work out, pretty sure they can pluck somebody out of that Detroit office that he was comfortable with. And so if you don't have to, right, you're not forced to, but if Poles, if this was his guy and they were tight and the whole thing, like somebody had posted up that Flores was, and I don't know if that goes back to a Trace Armstrong thing. That's a whole different story. But if this could be a 1-year matchup to see, and then let Johnson go get his guy, because literally that's the only positive that the Raiders had over us, and which didn't seem like much. And if you're going to make a 1-year trial and then you can give him that too, then that's appealing to Johnson, I would think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If it's terrible, then you let his contract run out, and you're committed to Johnson. You're paying him the money, so
yeah, you are.
I mean, I think but to hear it, the family loves Poles, so I don't know. The right thing would do say, we're doing this 5 years right now. Everybody's on the same page. But if you got a 1-year option to make a change, see how it goes first.
Clarence, do you read anything into their contracts not matching up at all? Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles? But ultimately, Ryan Poles is the one that hired this man. got on the plane Sunday morning or Monday morning with suitcases full of cash.
Well, the problem with that is, like I said before, and I'm not hoping, and I'm not even saying that it's going to happen. But if Ben Johnson fails and you got to let him go, then what are you going to do with Ryan Poles?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have to be married together. It has to be. This is it. We're not going to give you 3 head coaches. So if you let him go and he's in the midst of a 5-year contract, because I think that Eberflus had a 5-year contract. So you ended up letting Ben Johnson go with time left on his deal. Then that means Ryan Poles has got to go because then you got to start fresh. You got to bring in a general manager who then you have to let him hire his guy.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with offsetting contract. We've done that too many times.
I think that with what they're paying Johnson and as big a deal as this was, even if he's terrible, it's going to be a 3-year thing, right? And you got Poles on 1 year left, so if it's terrible, you can cut Poles out and you can let Johnson bring his own guy because I think he's safe. At least he's going to get 3 seasons, and his buyout's going to be big, so he may get all of it, So I think that I would like to see them come out of the gate and say, yeah, we're all on the same page. Here's an extension for Poles and we're, we're all on the same deal. But I get, let's see a dozen games and then announce it, that kind of thing. I mean, I understand that.
So Sarah, it was reported that our boy played with a cyst on his hand all year. His throwing hand.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. They're saying it's not a big deal. I mean, maybe that affected his accuracy. Maybe it didn't.
Right.
I mean, I don't. Do you look at it as a big deal at all? I mean, I don't. I mean,
no. I think that it's probably more
odd.
cosmetic than anything else.
I think our lack of any interior offensive line probably affected his accuracy more than anything.
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
So I don't know what's happened to Clarence, but this is the part of the show where we head into our final thoughts and start signing out. So Todd, what are your final thoughts about our Chicago Bears?
I'm glad we have a direction. I'm actually glad that the base defense isn't going to change because that was going to throw a lot of problems into personnel. So I'm pretty happy that we're going to run a base 4-3, which in reality is a 4-2-5, and so that's good. That doesn't, that we still have the holes we have, the defensive end. We need more depth in defensive interior, and then we need an entire interior offensive line, and and depth at tackle, and maybe starter tackle, and Braxton as depth probably. But anyway, I think that from a talent standpoint, it was good that we didn't, we're not going switching over to a 4 linebacker set and all that. But so I'm happy about that. I'm happy to dive into the players and figure out where I think the money should go. It doesn't usually work out that way, but I'll have opinions about it, and and where we should go in the draft. But it's a pretty decent offensive line free agency. And the rumor and the big prize is Trey Smith, and the rumors are that the Chiefs aren't going to have the money for it. So aren't going to franchise him. So we need to do whatever that takes. And if it's got to be 20 plus probably per, and we should be happy to do that. I mean, even 22, 23, I think that's.
Wait a minute. Is it a cheaper options though?
There are cheaper options. There's not a better option.
No.
So I mean,
what about the guy from Baltimore?
So he's a 31-year-old tackle. I'm talking about interior guys. Yeah.
So you're gonna give an interior guy $20 million? I'm not.
Yeah, the Panthers did last year. I think I like this guy a lot better than the guy that they did. Yeah, I'm all in on a 490 on this guy.
That's crazy.
Do 50 million guaranteed. I would sign that deal today.
There's no way you give a tackle that kind of money. There's no way.
A guard, right guard. But
I'm sorry, a guard. You give a tackle that kind of money. You don't give a guard that kind of money.
I know you're talking about
especially when you need a tackle.
26 years old, and he's top 10 guard in the league right now. So,
But Todd, we need a 3 technique. We need an edge rusher, and we need a tackle. All of that's going to cost money.
we have money. We can generate more money through cap casualties on guys that we can move on from. So we can cap casualty enough just for that one player. So I would do it right now.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Because I know we're not on free agent talk. That show's probably coming. But I just want to ask the question. If you give that kind of money to a guard, and that means you're going to end up having to give up a starter. So who you giving up?
Oh, we don't have a starter in the interior. We don't have a player.
No, I'm talking about on the team.
Oh,
Keenan Allen, we're probably not going to resign. There's $27 million freed up.
Yeah,
Keenan Allen wasn't making $27 million. It was typically a 1-year deal.
So I think Keenan was at 16. I think Keenan's projecting out at about 13 this year. The numbers I'm hearing, and I'm interested in that too. But we've got this money. This isn't a problem. We're not going to have to cut anybody to do this. I mean, I think in my scenario, we probably don't bring Byard back. That's a 7 million casualty number. I'm okay with that. There's even some talk of, and I know Stevens is my guy. I tend to talk about him every week. Let's talk about him moving over to safety. And I don't hate that idea either, just with his tackling ability. I think that we could probably start Terrell Smith and not lose much as a second corner and move Stevenson in. And that's $7 million. And if you're paying 20, your true cap hits about 15.5 on that. And that's the Keenan money. That really is. And we can get a cheaper third wide receiver with speed.
So wouldn't the option be, and depending on what you can get him, you can put Ronnie Stanley at that left tackle position. Cheaper than that.
Going to be 31 years old in the season.
Okay, but we're talking about left tackle though. We're not talking about deep. We're not talking about edge rusher. We talk about left tackle. But you can put him in it.
Stanley, and Stanley's, the numbers I'm seeing on him are 20. It's 2 for 40 is probably what he's looking at, with about 2/3 of that guaranteed.
All right, guys.
We
we're
can
running
do
out
both.
of time.
That's another show, but
let's
Smith is the big prize for us.
So let's get into our final thoughts. Todd just went. We have 7 minutes left. We're gonna get into free agency. Don't worry, and the roster breakdown. Don't worry, that's another show. So Sarah, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed yourself. So what are your final thoughts about your Chicago Bears?
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys so much for having me on. This is the first podcast I've ever done, and I was so excited when you reached out and asked if I wanted to join. So, for my final thoughts,
you've done very well. You've held your own.
For my final thoughts, I am honestly very proud of the team for moving as quick as they did. I know that people were getting nervous when they were, there's 20 people that was on the list to interview. So I'm glad that, they knew they were decisive. They knew who they wanted. They got the top guy. I'm really looking forward to see how we build out the rest of our coaching staff now. I read something this afternoon that said that Ben Johnson wants to get as many guys around him that have head coaching experience. And I think that is the right move. So I do hope, we get some guys that have that experience to surround him with and really support him in that. And I am looking forward to the season. I hope that, we build in the trenches this off season and try to, really get disciplined, just get our guys disciplined and have a better year than last season. So
Chicago Clarence, take us home, man.
Well, I just had one thing that I was going to bring up, but now I got two. So to those of you that's out there that chooses to call me while I'm in the middle of a damn show and kick me off the show because the phone call is ringing, what the hell do you want? Everybody who has my number knows that I'm in the middle of doing a podcast show. Why the hell are you calling me? Text me or just wait until I'm done with the damn show. You're supposed to be watching it anyway. The hell you calling me for? So number two, I'm pissed off at Hubert Davis. You cost me $800 because you can't beat Stafford. Stafford, a mediocre team at home. You lose to them on a last second shot because you choose to give a guy a wide open path to the basket. And you lose the game on a last second shot when he's shooting the ball from the paint. I am sick of it, Hubert Davis. I am ready for your ass to go. You can call me, you can text me, whoever. I will come help you pack. I've seen enough. You ain't the guy. This is not Carolina basketball. It's not. And we're gonna play Wake Forest tonight in Winston-Salem. We're probably gonna lose that game. I'm gonna hear shit all day tomorrow because all the Demon Deacon fans is just gonna resurrect from the dead because their team has sucked for 20 years. They
I can
still
take
living
one.
off of Tim Duncan. You know, I got to hear this. I am tired of it. And for those of you who kept calling me again, I'm unfriending all of you on Facebook. I've had enough. I'm tired of you calling me.
Hey,
So,
on,
Sarah-
a local note here, congrats to J9 on the win last night. Sorry about that, Clarence.
Oh,
Whatever.
Wow. Damn. Yes, Clarence is a Notre Dame fan, so he's going to be salty. So, Sarah, yes, if you haven't figured out, he's a diehard Tar Heel fan.
Well, I actually live in the area, so that's very interesting. And we just went to the game last week, so
You live in North Carolina?
I do, yeah.
Oh, we're all from Charlotte. I thought you were in Chicago, honestly.
Oh wow, no, I just moved here about a year and a half ago. So I mean, I'm
Wow.
born and raised in Chicago, but just moved here about a year and a half ago. So
Wow.
Well,
Small
welcome.
world.
yeah, so I'm in the Triangle area.
So, of course, Chicago Clarence always gets the most feedback. Mic drop, CC going off. He's got a fan club. He gets the most comments, most feedback for sure. So, with that, my final thoughts. Thank you for watching, everybody. Thank you for comments. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you again, Sarah, for joining us. I mean, you did well. I think you did very well. So, with
Thank
that,
you.
please follow us, like us, love us, subscribe to us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So until next time, Chicago Bears fans, bear down.
Bear down.
See ya.
Bear down.
Oh, Lordy.